So, you want to learn music, but you have no idea where to start, and you definitely don't want to just immediately go to music school. I feel you. I was there. I already went to college, and I was like, I really like music, but I don't want to go back to college just to learn it. So, I'm just going to DIY it on the internet because you can do anything on the internet. So today I'm going to show you how I'm DIYing a music degree on the internet. So to save you from like the hassle of like figuring out all of it for yourself from scratch because it's crazy. No, it's not just like looking up all of it on YouTube. There is some cool stuff on YouTube, but there's a few more structured stuff, and it can save you like thousands of dollars from just like going and getting an actual music degree that might not even be like what you want because maybe you want to make non-classical music, maybe you want to make stuff that's modern. So let's just kind of get into it and look at some of the websites that I'm using and programs, and see how we can adapt it. Before that, you really want to kind of decide what path in music you're interested in taking, because music is like such a broad term. It's just like saying I want to do art. Well, there's like a million ways to do art. There's a million ways to do music, right? Do you want to be a singer-songwriter, or do you want to be a producer? And if you want to be that, there's like tons of other things. Like, do you want to do electronic, or do you want to do like indie rock or pop or metal? They all have like kind of different pathways that you can take. And it helps because then you can kind of hone in on what you're interested in learning. If you if you want to be like a metal singer, then yeah, maybe it's helpful to learn like some kind of classical history, but it's not super applicable to what you want to learn versus like learning like metal specific history, or just abandoning all of that and then just learning more of the technical side, like how to use a DAW. So really kind of think about what you want to do and like what steps it would take for you to get there. Like for me, I'm super interested in like the DIY kind of like produce your own stuff, more like indie, pop and rock leaning, real like home studio. I mean, like, like live tracking instruments and kind of recording it yourself, maybe getting like you and a few people to just kind of like play something, and not I can't afford a producer, right now. So producing like your own stuff, from scratch. So that's the kind of path that I wanted to take, and kind of leans into the the courses and stuff that I was most interested in. One was, music theory, like getting a foundational knowledge and kind of like the whole thing. I do have like a little bit of a history background already. And then learning instruments, and learning how to play both like the keyboard, as well as like guitar and bass. Those are kind of the ones that I wanted to specialize on. So with that all out of the way, I'm just going to go ahead and dive into the programs that have been helping me out, and maybe can kind of, guide you a little bit. And no, they're not all Skillshare. So let's go ahead and switch to screen share. So the first thing, I did a whole video on this already, but it's a website called LinkedIn Learning. I think it's like super underrated website because no one really knows about it unless you went to college and you, like were required to learn it from a professor. It used to be Linda.com, this little girl, and got bought by LinkedIn. And it's really good for learning like software. So I used it to learn Logic Pro, because that's my preferred. I use a Mac and I really like the way Logic works, and I grew up on GarageBand. But there's also tons of different ones you can learn. Ableton and Pro Tools on it as well if you want to go like a different route. I'm sure there's even the other like FL Studio kind of DAWs. But I used it to learn Logic Pro. I think it's like $40 a month. But if you watch that other video that I did like a sneaky subscribe for a free trial and then cancel because, like a real big brain kind of activity. Um, I think a DAW is super important for basically anything you want to learn. You want to like be able to capture your creativity in some way, and you do that like through Logic or through Ableton. So that's super important. Another thing is I kind of group them into like foundational knowledge classes. And I've been doing that through a website called Coursera. It's another kind of like in the weeds one that you don't really hear about that often. But basically, it just has like a bunch of different classes that are either like taught from like actual schools, um, or I think they do have to like all be taught by actual schools, like Yale and Harvard and all this. But Berkeley, which is like a super popular music school up in, I believe, Boston, has a bunch of online courses here for like super, super cheap. It's only like $40 a month to take them. I know cheap is a relative term, but for me, they've been like super helpful. And they have like a lot of music related classes and even like they call them like paths, or I think they're called paths, course specialization. There you go, specializations, that you can kind of dive into. The ones that I'm doing right now, I already have pulled up music production. So this is kind of like anything that's a little bit more technical. This is like a pathway or a specialization that has 4 courses in it. The art of music production, which I've already done, the technology of music production, which I'm doing right now, and then I'm skipping Pro Tools because I use Logic. Another one is music business because I'm a super nerd and I like, if I'm going to do this, I want to like be able to make money in it someday. So learning kind of like how that whole thing works. So this kind of pathway is basically goes into like the history of the music industry and how people have kind of made money from it in the past through like all the copywriting in the weeds kind of stuff, and like developing your brand and stuff. I've already taken music business foundations, and I'm currently doing brand. Or I already finished the other day the building your career, and now moving on to the very heady copyright law. But I think it's like super important to know before you get sued by Taylor Swift for doing something that you weren't supposed to. And then the final one that I'm taking on Coursera is specifically for songwriting. So it's like a whole pathway on songwriting. It also has a bunch of different courses. You can take so many courses on here. But I love like lyrics and writing my own stuff. It's probably like my favorite part of music making is like the lyrics. And so there's a bunch of courses on here. I've already taken songwriting, writing the lyrics, and then there's songwriting, writing the music. I can super vouch for songwriting, writing the lyrics. It's like such a great course, as are the other ones I've already talked about, but that one especially is like one of my favorites. And then you get into arranging, and then probably skip Ableton again because I use Logic. But as you can see, there's like tons of stuff. There's other ones that I haven't done yet on more like in the weeds music theory kind of stuff. And just like a whole multitude. There's a whole specialization for electronic music if you want to kind of go down that pathway, because it's a little bit different from like the standard kind of pop song structure. So it's taught a little bit differently. But yeah, and then after that, we get into, again, this will be different if you're less interested in it, but like instrument specific courses. I love playing my own instruments. I think it's like my favorite way to connect with music, like singing and playing instruments. And so I've been learning a lot online. The first instrument I ever learned how to play was guitar. And I learned it through my man right here, Justin Guitar. This is, I don't, I feel like everyone should just know this. It's such a good. He has a YouTube channel with like a few million subscribers, but um, it is such a good website, and the whole thing is free. Like the whole entire program is free, and it takes you like. I love personally learning in like course kind of structure, like having a level 1, level 2, level 3, instead of just like learning random things or learning random songs, even though you can do that on here. I like learning kind of more in the weeds stuff that like relates to music theory and being able to like come up with your own chord progressions. And this really like goes through everything. Like I'll just like log in super quick. Um, there is so many courses, and they're like laid out in grades, which is super, super cool. Kind of like karate belt style. Let's see if I can go to all lessons. Yeah, so like, and each grade is probably like so many. So like for example, grade 2 is broken up into modules, and there's like so much stuff. Like you can see here, like these are all like 2-hour classes, and Justin is just like, he's like a super chill and nice dude. And he even like, this is amazing. He came up with this thing because he knew that there's like a disconnect, because he's been playing guitar for like 30 years and the people that would be learning this are newbies. So he started learning guitar left-handed so that he could experience the same struggle as everyone else. And he has like all of these like left-handed practice sessions and stuff. And it's super great because, you know, if you've ever been like become really good at something and you're trying to teach someone else how to do it, the stuff that you've already learned how to do can feel super easy and intuitive when it's not. Like the way that you have to like move your hand and kind of like internally memorize the fretboard, you know, it just comes with time. And you might not realize, oh, this like finger position is actually kind of a stretch for most people, you know? So it's so cool that he would decided to like go and learn left-handed, and like uses it as like his own guide for like how to structure the whole course. But you can learn literally anything. And then if you are more interested in like covers and learning other people's songs, there's like a tab with like 500 or so songs with like videos on how to play them all. So it's just huge. It's like a whole, you could like, if you only wanted to learn guitar, this is where I would direct you. You can learn everything, I think, on this, honestly. Next up, my second favorite instrument, and one I think is like super important to learn. Just it really helps for like music theory and anything, because everything can be played on it. Hint, hint, is piano. Especially, I have one right here that you can't see, but using it as MIDI, everything is played on piano. Music theory is taught on piano, so it really helps to kind of know how to play some basic piano. I'm not trying to be like a super piano aficionado, but it really helps to learn stuff on it. And once you get the foundations, I'm saying like music theory is so much simpler to learn on piano than on guitar. The website that I super like, they do have like pretty good advertising, so I think a few more people know of it, is Pianote. It's another one of those like structured levels, and you can learn, like here you can even see like level 1, 2, 3. You can learn a whole lot from it. It is not free, unlike Justin Guitar. You do have to pay. I think it's like $35 a month. I got like a deal where it was like, I don't know, like $50 for 3 months or something. But I think it's like just normally like $30-ish a month. But I super vouch for it as well. I think it's like super cool. If I log in really quick, you can see kind of how it's laid out. There's a bunch of individual courses, and then like the main kind of foundation of the website is this thing called the method, where there's like 10 levels, each with like courses inside of them. They're probably like 3-ish hours each a level, and they give you like a whole practice routine and stuff. So super great. Will take you all the way. The thing I like about the reason I'm not taking like a music theory specific class right now, like on Coursera or something, is because music theory is kind of like interwoven into this class, as well as Justin Guitar has its own like music theory um, aimed more at like structuring for guitar. So I'm getting like my music theory fill from both of those. But yeah, that's a lot. You could spend years and years and years just with guitar and piano, and like basically every song ever is written on either guitar or piano. So super helpful. The other ones that I personally do that I'm really interested in is bass. I am a bass, a bit of a bass head. I love the bass guitar. It's such an amazing instrument, underrated, and everyone just plays it on MIDI. I know. I do it sometimes too, but it's such a good instrument. Another great resource that I use as well is Scott's Bass Lessons. If you're into bass guitar at all, you probably know Scott. He has like one of the biggest bass guitar YouTube channels. Probably the biggest, honestly, but he has this sweet, again, like kind of course structure, the way that I really like to learn, of bass guitar laid out, and it goes through like everything. And then there's also, again, like songs and more specific technique stuff that you can learn on top of it. If you like just want to be a bass guitarist, then like just do this. Super great. If you want like a taste of this one, I definitely recommend watching the YouTube videos. Same for like piano and Justin Guitar. They all have YouTube channels with like over 1 million subscribers. So just kind of like look into theirs, and you get a taste of like what they're trying to teach. I'm not actually active in this one right now because, you know, it kind of starts to pile up in like the amount of money you're willing to spend, and also like time poor. I still work full time, so you know I have to like carve out time to do all this kind of stuff. So what I've been doing is doing like right now I'm doing just strictly guitar and piano, and then for this month and then next month focusing on like bass and another thing that we're about to talk about in a second, and then going back to guitar and piano, and I kind of like stagger it out so I don't have to spend like a bunch of money a month on this, because it definitely does start to add up. Like LinkedIn Learning is like $45 a month. Again, I did like a free trial. Coursera is like also like $30 to $40 a month. And then Justin Guitar, OG, free, love them. Piano, a 30-ish. And Scott's Bass, I think, is like 30 to 40. You get a better deal if you do it a year, but you know, I don't got that kind of dough. And then finally, to round out the trio of kind of like indie rock instruments, vocals, which are super huge. It's my worst for sure is vocals, but the one website that I really like is 30 Day Singer. The whole kind of pitch for the website is that you can go from like 0 to hero in 30 days. They also do like the kind of course structure where they lay it out. I really like that they do like different instructors for each course. So if you're like male, maybe you want to follow like Jonathan in like more of the male range versus female, because you know we all have like different vocal ranges that we can sing in. So some of the exercises are a bit easier to follow if you're singing in your own vocal range. But I actually do the Camille's one just because I really like the way she teaches. They all kind of teach like differently, and I just kind of like pitch it down a little bit. But I think it's a super great resource as well. It takes you through like warm-ups and like some kind of like more foundational stuff, all the way toward like more kind of niche techniques and like belting and all that kind of stuff. So I think super unsung hero working on your vocals. Everyone's like, oh, you know, I just like sing, you know, and it's, for me at least, it doesn't work that way. I can't just like sing. I kind of have to get my mind into it and warm up a little bit. Super quick, I also wanted to add, if you're interested in learning drums, there's this really cool website called Drumeo. I can't personally vouch for it because I haven't taken it yet. It's taught by the same kind of group that runs Pianote as well. But I've heard really good things about this website. It's, again, similarly structured to the whole kind of course level kind of way. But here you can see like the levels right here. But I've heard really good things about it, and I do plan to do it in the future. I'm sure as I progress in the future, I'll start doing some more stuff. I definitely feel, even though I've been doing it for a little bit, like I'm still a beginner. I really want to do, once I get to kind of more of an intermediate level, there's this awesome, I'm sure it's been advertised to you if you do any music kind of stuff, but there's this awesome pop songwriting and production class by Charlie Puth. Big fan. It's like a month long, and it's a little more in the weeds. I think you make like 2 or 3 songs throughout the course, and you get to see his like whole kind of process, which is super cool. But it's like $350. So I was like gonna kind of wait until I take care of the first kind of stuff before diving into that whole thing, because it can be a lot. Monthly is like another good one. They have a bunch of music classes. There's another one from Andrew Wong right here. Also a big fan of Andrew Wong. A little more electric leaning and more DAW heavy than Charlie's one. And there's also one from Ryan Tedder as well, if you're more interested in the One Republic kind of angle. But yeah, so that is more, I think, intermediate level. But, you know, if you want to start off learning from the best, learn from like Charlie Puth. He's amazing. So, and then just finally, kind of want to show like super in the weeds. I'm a huge nerd, so don't judge me, but I have like a Notion kind of like page where I structure it all out. And it just kind of like shows, I have like the courses laid out for what I'm doing right now, and it helps me kind of like be organized and almost treat it like my own little mini college, even though I'm pulling from like a bunch of different places. So I have like the ones I've completed and ones that I'm in progress and coming up. And it really helps me kind of like organize the notes and all that kind of stuff and see where I want to go in the future. And as I like learn more things, I learn more about what I didn't know before, and I can kind of like go find courses and stuff for that. And then finally, at the end of the day, you know, throwing in YouTube videos. I love YouTube. It's like one of my favorite things. Just checking in some YouTube videos for more specific stuff, or, you know, just to round out the catalog. YouTube is like the electives, I feel, you know, you're like, I just want to learn a little bit more about how to structure pop vocals. Well, you know, I'm sure there's a YouTube video on that. There's a YouTube video on everything. So that is it for this kind of video. If you have any questions about how maybe you're interested in something that's a little bit different than I am and want some recommendations, definitely just like drop a comment below, because I've looked through basically the whole catalog, it seems, of ways to learn music online. But yeah, that's it for this one. Peace out. See you in the next one.